everybody? Heat Ratio episode 24, Fantasy Firebox. The crew is back. We got the quad box going tonight. I'm your host, Tony Jigsaw Cancello, joined, as always, by Pittsburgh John Coker, Detroit's finest, Mr. Jason Sullivan, and the NHL guru, Mr. Dan Green. And listen, let me tell you, this is week 17. This is the last time we actually get to talk fantasy football for real before we start talking about playoffs and the playoff fantasy contest, which I would love. I love to do them, and we'll do one for the show. But before we forget, without further ado, do not forget the Heat Ratio DFS Crossover League is still active through DraftKings. It is $5 every week through DraftKings Friday nights. Sign up now. We got about 35 people already in, trying to get to about 50. We only play once a week. People, this is an easy contest. One time a week, Friday nights, and the top 3 cash out every single week. So let's get into this right now, because I want to ask you guys, I've never been in a fantasy league since I've been playing for 20 plus years that had a Super Bowl on week 17, only because there's so many games that either aren't being played for any kind of production. There's people that are being held out. It's just, to me, it's a really weak draw. So Jason, have you ever played in a league that has a Super Bowl week 17? And don't you think it's kind of like a ridiculous idea?
Yeah, it definitely is. Sadly, I have played in a league that had that. I wasn't very long for that league. I think I was in it 1 year, and I was like, you know what?
Uh-oh. We lost Jason's sound. That's all right.
Better now?
Now, there you go. Okay, we're good. Go ahead. It's all editable, good. Man. It's live. It's all right. Let's go. Let's roll.
So I did play in a league 1 year that did have it, have the championship game being week 17. Obviously, I didn't stay in that league for very long. It's ridiculous. Like you said, it's just such a bad idea. You don't know who's going to play. You don't know if guys are going to play the whole game or what's going to happen. So, yeah, if you're in a league like that, get out. That's my advice.
Yes. If you're in a league that's a dinosaur league. Yeah. Like I said, my man Pat Callahan from This Week in Pro Football. Trevor saying, what's up, fellas? What's up, Trev? What's up, Al? Trevor wants to know fantasy hockey talk. I got a draft on Saturday. Listen, that's Dan. That's our man. You are not – let me tell you something. Look at the wall behind me. Not a hockey player up there. Not saying I don't like hockey, but if I'm drafting your NHL team, we got issues. There's the man right there. There's a jersey right there. That is the hockey man. So Trevor says, Tony, that's my league. I just picked up the trophy from last year's champ. And Trevor says not ridiculous at all. I disagree, Trevor. Disagree, man, because you want to sit back in week 17 and actually enjoy and not have to worry about all the shenanigans based on brackets. And listen, fantasy has to end, in my opinion, week 17. It has to. The only time we're going to play week 17 is if the NFL adds another game. That's when we play week 17. So Dan, what do you think? What's your thoughts on this?
No, it's absurd, actually. I was in a league one time that did that, and exactly what you described happened. People were on buys. I think I had to play. Who was the quarterback that replaced Kurt Warner with the Rams? Mark Bolger.
Yeah.
I had to throw him in my lineup last second because he was the only active quarterback. I think the championship game that I was in, I won like 20-18. We had nobody. It was like ridiculous. There was no players left. No consequence. It's absurd. I think most leagues though have learned from that and don't do that anymore.
Well, you would think. Well, the other thing, you make a good point. The other reason why I don't like it is because what if, like, just hypothetically, say your best player is Derrick Henry all year long, and all of a sudden now the Titans are out of it, and Derrick Henry doesn't play. Like, that's not even your real lineup. You went all year with these guys, and now you have to put in stiffs like Jeremy McNichols, right? Yeah.
The Chiefs have 3 or 4 studs in their lineup. I don't know if they're playing them this weekend.
Exactly, or even how much they're going to play. So
correct.
Yeah, I definitely don't like that. John, I think you are in a Super Bowl this weekend, aren't you?
Well, no, my one league, they must have changed the playoff rules, or the league ended and restarted with like a new commissioner, same guys. I don't know. It was a shock to me in week 14, going into week 15, that I thought I lost, but still had another week. So what they did, and I was wondering why only the top 4 teams make it, It's actually a 2-week playoff. So 4 plays 1, 2 plays 3 for 2 weeks, week 13 or week 14, 15. And then the championship is week 16, 17.
Oh,
and
wow.
yes, I don't like it. No, you don't play in week 17.
I was going to say that's even worse. Ugh.
Yeah, man. That's,
Well,
I mean,
I don't know. I know my one league, I got Roethlisberger. What do? He's out. Like, and not that I'm necessarily carrying a backup quarterback depending on roster restrictions. Like I think the one league I might have Jared Goff or something, but
yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. And Trevor says I'm the commissioner, and we as a league love chaos. So Al's checking it out. See, Al's ready. He's been practicing on his lineups for Friday. He said, "Let's go." He's ready. I love it. This is gonna be fun. It's gonna be a lot of trash talking as well. And for anybody listening who's in the league, do me a favor. If I don't recognize the name, at least drop your Twitter handle on there. So at least, when I do the shout outs on Twitter, I know for 20, 30, 40% of the people, but some of them I'm not sure. If you're listeners, please put that on there so we know. Mike, what's up, Mike? Checking in as always. Is it fantasy over or is this all sports? Yes. Mike, so just to give you an idea. So fantasy isn't technically over for the people who do still have a Super Bowl this week. We are talking to them. DFS is still going on. And then we're going to have playoff fantasy for football that we'll get into. We'll talk on a weekly basis as well. But we will transition over to NBA. This will be about NBA basketball. And then we will transition with Major League Baseball as well. Now, when it comes to
golf.
Golf, hockey, that, there's going to be, Jason's going to do some things with golf, not weekly or anything like that, but he will be doing things. He'll be doing stuff for All About the Birds as well. Dan will be doing some really hardcore. I'm waiting for this hardcore hockey analysis. I can't wait. I'm putting him on the spot, but I know he's got it. I know he's ready.
I'll get stitches and everything. Knock my teeth out.
Yeah. Mike says, I didn't have time to sign up. If I don't make it this week, can I do next week or no? Mike, you can sign up. But you don't have. Here's the thing: if you sign up, you don't have to play. Like if you miss a week, it's not the end of the world. Number one, you're not going to lose your $5, and it's just going to be one less player that plays that week, so the pot will be adjusted. So it's not that big of a deal. It's not. Wait, legit leagues do last. Look, Mike's checking in right there, and this is what we were talking about before he checked in. That's just a violation. I agree, man. I agree.
It is.
100%. So let's do a quick review. I think there were some really interesting storylines last week. I'll be personally honest, I did not have a good week. I thought my lineup was great going in. I felt really good about it. I finished 14th in my 20 DFS experts league, which I've never finished 14th. So I don't know what happened. I got decent scores, but nobody blew it out of the water. That was a problem. I didn't have that 30 or 40 point guy. So, and I will pat myself. I love saying this every week. Stephon Diggs again going off. My one take that I was very, very animated about that I love was completely wrong about Miles Sanders. I did say that. But again, Dan, going by this week, I know me and you went back and forth with different lines, what kind of stood out to you last week and who kind of boned you a little bit in your lineups?
I did pretty well this past week. I didn't have to worry about hitting PayPal. So
nice.
I had a good week. I'm trying to think. I always chart on our value picks, like Trubisky, Brady hooked me up big time. So I had a lot of Brady, Evans in my lineups. McKissick, Bernard were okay plays. I had a lot of Gallup, a lot of Cooper in my lineups with the Cowboys. I missed out with Henderson, Snell, Rivers, and Goff. Those are ones I suggested. And the Ryan Chiefs game did not go to script. It was a bad game script. So
yeah,
that was just weird. But in the end, he put up respectable numbers.
Yeah, it wasn't terrible.
And Ridley went off.
It wasn't terrible. Yeah, it definitely wasn't terrible.
But David Williams is my big hit. I had him in every lineup.
Who'd you have?
David Johnson, excuse me. David Johnson, I had him in every lineup.
You did mention him, man. You did mention him last week. That was good.
And I also mentioned that Deshaun would catch a bomb and then pull his hamstring.
Yeah.
I'm on record.
But wait, here's the question. Did he pull his hamstring on the bomb or the flip? That's what we have to figure out.
I don't think he pulled his hamstring at all. I think just Doug's a dope, and he forgot to put him back in the lineup.
How do you forget to put him back
once
in?
his game script is over, move on to something different.
It is unbelievable. Al says Diggs won on first place this week. Yeah, I'll tell you what. He won a lot of people first place because he went off. I mean, I know. Good follow for the show. I don't know if she's watching tonight, but Jenna was hitting me up on Twitter. I mean, she thought she was going to lose. She went in and she had Diggs and she had Tyler Bass and she winds up winning the fantasy championship. So you just never know. I mean, we've seen some ridiculous plays over the last couple of weeks. Alvin Kamara. I mean, can we say enough about that performance, right? Unbelievable, but it's just a crazy week. John, who stood out to you and who kind of boned you this week?
Yeah, Allen, Diggs, and Gallup. I mean, those were the hits in my lineup. The one I did really good in. I missed on Lev Bell. I thought he was going to have some workload. I mean, he was nice and cheap at 5,800.
What was that?
Huh.
Yeah, I thought he got hurt watching that game. Why isn't he in the game? Yeah.
No clue.
I should have went with my gut because, I forget I follow so many different people on Twitter. I forget the fantasy show that I really like, besides ours. And they came out and it was just kind of like a funny meme. It was like, what if Darrell Williams is actually the guy this week? And I was like, dude, you know what? It's like Andy Reid going to pull a Belichick. Like, we all think this is going to be the Lev Bell show. And it was. Darrell Williams was, and you know what? He looked like the better back. He just did. He was barreling over people. He had a quicker burst, hitting the hole faster. And I think, I don't know if it was Romo who was the announcer of that game or not, but whoever it was made a really good point. Then John knows this from his Pittsburgh days that Lev Bell is one of those runs. He waits, he's patient, he tries to hit the hole, and that line is not used to that. That line with CEH, he's just taken off. So it was just the signs just wasn't there, man. Just wasn't there. But Lev Bell, he hit me hard because I know somebody asked me. I looked like a dope. I did, but I had good reasoning. When I did my show Sunday morning, they were like Jeff Wilson or Lev Bell. It was before when they play because they play on Saturday. But I'm like, listen, I can't trust the San Francisco 49er running back. No. Like, it's hard for me to trust him. And what's he do? Goes off, and I look like a dope. But that's okay. At least if you can look like a dope, it's cool. But as long as you have solid reasoning on what your dopey move was, you're good. But yeah, so that's my spiel for tonight. Jason, how'd you do this week?
You know who had the worst week of their season? You're looking at him. Worst week by far of the entire season. I don't know what I was doing. It was like one of those weeks that I looked at my lineup and I felt confident in the morning. Yes. And then by like 2 o'clock, I'm like, what the hell did I do? Yeah, it was not good. Not a lot to talk about. Like, it was kind of like you said, though. I had a lot of like 10, 15-point guys, but like nobody got more than 20 and nobody got less than 10. So it was just kind of in between.
Yeah, it's like it was just a weird week, man. It really was. Yeah. I'm not used to them. I'm used to like one guy explode. Even like Montgomery didn't explode like we thought he was going to. Jonathan Taylor had a big day. I didn't even look at Jonathan Taylor. Like I honestly never even mentioned Jonathan Taylor. Right? So. It happens, man. It happens. Trevor says he still lost by 20 points. Diggs and Allen helped out, but not enough. And the other team must have been pretty stacked. Mike Checkaday says, I like this. I need all 4 people to chime in. What is your stance on an empty slot? Is that an automatic 0 for the week, for the team, for incomplete roster, or just a 0 for that spot? For me personally, I just say it's a 0 for that spot. Because, whether the guy, maybe he's injured, whether, he's on COVID or whatever he is, I don't know. I can't give somebody an illegal lineup for having an empty slot. Now, I mean, that's, what, though? The more I think about it, though, it's tough because the default on most leagues, if you leave a spot empty, it usually gives you an alert and gives you an illegal lineup. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, if a player's on there and he's injured, you get the 0. I'm like, you know what? I'll be honest. I'm going to change my stance. I'm going to say it's an incomplete roster. I'm going to go with illegal roster. It's an illegal lineup because it's just empty. It's not like a player who's hurt or on COVID. It's empty. So I'm going to go illegal lineup. John, what do you think?
No.
No what?
I mean, CBS.
No.
I love. He's so quick. No.
Can you be more vague?
The same way, I think. It'll say the illegal lineup, and if you go and look at like a preview or pregame, there's nothing. It's 0. No, I don't believe in that. If you're an idiot that decides to not set your lineup, especially in a playoff game, I mean, look, I've had glitches where I've picked up a guy and then he didn't go directly into my lineup, like even though I dropped a guy in my lineup. Or you pick up a guy and then, I don't know, you hit like save or you forget to hit save when you go and put him in. You're in a rush. It's Sunday. You're tailgating for a game or something. I've had a couple snafus, like little technical things. There's no reason to penalize a forfeit because of one little potential miss of the button. If you had 5 empty slots or something, I don't know. I mean, every situation is different, but no, 99% of the time, just give them a 0.
Yeah, but here's my thing. What if you're purposely doing it? What if you're purposely doing it? Right? And that's the thing. Like, I see what you're saying. There is some times where, listen, our heads, we all are busy people and things happen. But, I think it's got to be an illegal lineup because what if you're purposely doing that for the simple fact that, you don't want somebody to win or you want somebody to win, I should say. Like, I don't think that's right. I mean, at least if you put somebody in that spot, you have the opportunity to be a 0. You know what I mean? But
that's the integrity of the league. You could go pick up a turd that plays on special teams and stick them in. So
at least, yeah,
that's integrity of the league. If you got a guy in your league that's going to do that, then that dude needs to be kicked out, or you need to be ousted as a league manager because that's just nonsense. That will never happen in a league I'm in.
So Mike says we had a guy pull his D because he was up 4 on a late game on Sunday. So he pulled and they were like -7.
No, the D goes in, it's forced, that's commissioner overrule, put it up for a vote or whatever you do. No, you can't play the game. You can't. No.
The league didn't fire a warning. That's crazy, man. You can't do that. That's weak. That's slimy. Like, you're right. Like, I want nobody like that in my league. Like, have some integrity, man. And not that, but I'll tell you what, that's why I hate negative points. That's why I hate team defenses. When my league that I've run 5 years ago, I transitioned to individual defensive players. I hate the team defense. At least with IDPs, you actually have to think and give some kind of analysis on who you're picking and why. I hate the team defense. It sucks. It's the worst position in fantasy sports, in my opinion. But what he did was definitely wrong. Dan, what do you think?
No. Now knowing the context, I completely think it's slimy and wrong. But if it was what John was describing earlier, the guy had Rashard Higgins and he didn't pay attention to the COVID thing, and he left that position with a player that wasn't playing. The guy was just a little absent-minded. But if he calculatingly took a guy out, or
that's
you could do that with a kicker as well, because in some leagues you lose points for missed field goals. So that is wrong. But you now know to establish ground rules for next year. You got to cover your every base because of that slime ball.
Yes, exactly.
But you can't. Honestly, you can't do anything about it unless it's in the ground rules. If you can't do it after the fact, unfortunately.
No, you're right. You're right. Unfortunately, he made it to be an example, and now you have to wait the whole off season and worry about next year, right, Jason?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Pretty much what Dan just said, too. You don't want that guy in your league anymore. First off, kick that guy out of your league for next year, because that's a BS move. But, yeah, if it's not in the ground rules, what are you going to do? I mean, it's kind of one of those things that's crappy. I had a situation that was very similar to that a couple years ago. So I've done a baseball league that we've done with the same people for probably 15 years now. People started to realize that they could put guys that were starting pitchers in the relief pitcher spot that were actually starting.
The SPRP.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Exactly.
Yep.
So we had that same situation. So we had one guy that would just pick up 7 guys that were going to be double starts for the week and play him. So we actually had to establish a rule, like you have to put, relief pitchers in that category.
It's always
It's a slimy move, though.
Yeah, it's
see,
everybody's looking for that edge, man.
I don't think, that's not a slimy move to me because my entire league does it. We all do it. That's like dual eligibility. I mean, the way our league treats it, and I mean, look, if you got a group of guys, and you want just a purist, these are more, just regular guys that want to do fantasy baseball. But yeah, all of them, start snatching up any of the pitchers that have the dual eligibility,
right.
Just because, then you and it's even worse if you at least that's a roto league, so you're going the whole season. Yeah, it's weekly lineup, so a dual starting, a 2-start relief, relief pitcher. Yes, that's worth something. But at least it's not like win or loss in that week. Playing a head-to-head points league where you can bank 2 wins, you know what I mean, and pick up a quick win and then just drop the boots. Yeah.
See, that's what ours is. Ours is head-to-head, so that's why it mattered. So guys are picking up 7 2-star pitchers in a week. It's crazy.
Well, plus you have teams that's how they work their season. I mean,
true.
Where they almost go bullpen by committee every night. That's the unfortunate with analytics nowadays. Tampa Bay. So that's probably how the guy came up with the concept.
San Francisco, anybody with Gabe.
Yeah.
Trent checking in. Trent from YouTube. What's up, Trent? How you doing, man? Nice to I love this question. As this is something we're going to get into. Trent, if you could do us a favor, hit that subscribe button. If you're not already following us, we'd really appreciate it. He wants to talk keepers, and I like this because we're going to evolve into this next week because we're going to have to start talking about who to keep, and there's a lot of strategy behind keepers, and he's asking us, pick 2 to keep. Can't be 2 at the same position. Josh Allen, Stephen Diggs, Keenan Allen, Zeke Elliott, Joe Mixon. He says he's leaning towards Josh and Diggs, but feels like Zeke is going to be back on track next year. Wow, I'll tell you what, that's a really good question. John, I'm going to go to you first, brother. What do you think here, man? Who are you keeping?
I mean, this is to keeper strategy takes me a long time to strategize and ponder. Well, you got to look at what everybody else's rosters are. Keeper leagues, I always project out what everybody's going to keep themselves. That gives me an idea. Off the top of my head, I'm not keeping a quarterback. But if I know the league and depending on the scoring, and I know that Mahomes is getting kept and Lamar Jackson's getting kept, and you want, and Kyler, and you want one of the elite guys, and you got that last of the elite, then I might keep them, But off the top of my head, I would go Diggs and Zeke. I like Diggs better than Keenan Allen. I like Zeke better than Mixon. And I wouldn't go the quarterback route.
I like that. What do you think, Jason?
I'm just going to say same. Move on. No,
that works. That works.
No,
Dan,
that's exactly what I was just about to say. I mean, my first thought was Josh Allen because obviously he's really good, but I'm not keeping a quarterback. I agree with that point 100%. And, I think Zeke is going to bounce back. I don't know if he's going to be quite as dominant as he once was, but he's still a pretty good back. And Diggs, I mean, 156 targets this year for Diggs. That's insane. You have to keep him, I feel like. So, yeah, I would go Diggs and Zeke.
I like that. What do you think, Dan?
Well, my only thinking is, and I tend to agree with John and Jason also, but you have to almost project what the teams are going to look like next year as well. It's easy to rule out Keenan Allen and Mixon because their teams are probably not going to be that good. And again, I have a philosophy: stay away from players from bad teams. So that's tough, though. I mean, I think Allen's just starting something special, so that's tough. But Diggs for sure, and I guess Zeke, because I think he'll bounce back. I think the Cowboys are going to be solid next year in this awful division.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? I listen. I don't know how you don't keep Josh Allen. I completely disagree with John and Jason, only for the simple fact that, you know what? I've been in keeper leagues before, and I'll tell you what. Patrick Mahomes and those guys aren't even going to be there. And even if they are, Josh Allen's a top 5 quarterback. So, listen, what's the point difference between Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen? So if I don't keep Josh Allen, I'm trying to get Patrick Mahomes. Am I trying to get 20 plus points? I mean, at the end of the day, to me, it's a wash. I think the biggest upside here is Josh Allen. He has every opportunity to be a top 3 quarterback next year in fantasy without a doubt. And I don't think Diggs, 156 target Diggs, I don't think he can replicate that. I don't. I think he has had a tremendous year, okay, but we also have to remember there's been no John Brown, who's been hurt half of the year, okay? Pete Beasley has just been developing. Gabriel Davis is just developing. They have a gadget guy in Isaiah McKenzie. They have 2 tight end sets. Zach Moss, they have Singletary. There's a lot of mouths to feed. So I don't think next year that Diggs will be able to replicate it. So for me, I would go Josh Allen and I would go Zeke. I think Zeke is he's definitely going to bounce back. That whole team, there was some bad juju on that team this year. It's obvious. New coach, new system, COVID, injury to Dak, offensive line was hurt. There's a lot of things. So for me, I go Josh Allen, I go Zeke, and I don't think you can go wrong because you start off the draft with a top 3 quarterback and a top 5 running back, and you're good to go. And there's no questions. To me, there's no questions. Zeke is 100%. Nobody behind him. He's the guy. He's the guy they paid. Josh, I just couldn't get rid of Josh Allen, man.
It's nice to consider a stack, too, though. Right off the jump,
right.
Too.
No, you're right. You're right. God,
I did. One, Tony, I swear your argument was the exact argument that I have for Diggs and against Allen. You talked about replicating the season. I count on Diggs replicating what he's done more than Josh Allen replicating what he's done.
Oh,
that's my opinion. And what the stack, I'm sorry, I am not stacking keepers. I like stacks, but I am not putting all my eggs in a Buffalo Bills basket. We have seen teams. We saw the Green Bay Packers.
Buffalo, man.
I have nothing against Buffalo.
Like you killed Buffalo.
No, AFC hater.
No, we've seen Green Bay go with 13 wins, and then Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, and the whole team's in shambles. We've seen teams. Remember that one year for the Heat Ratio podcast? I look where these teams were projected to go, and look where they finished. And there were some teams that had 6-game differentials. All right. So I'm just saying, to fantasy-wise, I am not putting all my eggs into the Buffalo Bills basket. Would I do that with the Chiefs? Yes, because that's proven over a couple years, not on a new addition Diggs and Josh Allen playing amazing ball. And yes, I would like to have him as a quarterback, but he's surprised me and show me again. I'm not paying up for the career year.
So
you know what I was thinking too, kind of along that same point. I feel like you made a comparison. You said Josh, there's not that much of a difference between Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. I feel like you could make the argument going the other way down the rankings too, though. Is there really that much of a difference between Josh Allen and the number 6, 7, 8 quarterback? Probably not.
Herbert. Really. Herbert or someone like that.
Yeah, like Herbert or Lamar Jackson, somebody like that. It's like,
but the other thing that you guys not that you guys are missing by any means. Look at where these guys go. It's not like the top 6 quarterbacks are going to be the top 6 quarterbacks. Herbert came out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Where was Brady? I mean, he's put up stats. Like, I'm just saying, there's a lot of guys, when you're talking fantasy football, yes, everybody wants, there's 12 starting quarterbacks, so everybody wants one of the top 6, obviously, just like everybody wants one of the top 12 running backs, top 12 receivers. But I'm saying that next tier, or even like guys creeping up into the bottom of that top tier, you don't know who they're going to be from year to year.
No, that goes with every position.
Stafford did it 2 years ago.
That goes with every position, though. You could pick up a James Robinson and have a phenomenal year if you didn't. He wasn't factored in. So.
Wow. Or that's the one anomaly. What other running back could you just pick up and plug in there?
Well,
Gibson.
There you go. Well, here's my thing too, though. I look at, even though it's fantasy, I also look at the team, and for me, I always want a quarterback on a really good team. So, Josh Herbert wasn't looked at because he was on the Chargers, right? So, Josh Allen is on the team's going nowhere. They are a very young team, okay? The average age on that team is like 27 and a half, okay? So, on defense and offense, that team's going nowhere. And you see, and that division is theirs for the next 2 or 3 years. New England is not bouncing back. They're not that quickly. And Miami could be competitive, yes, but this is Buffalo's 2 to 3 year run, man. We're in year one of it. And if I can get that guy, I'm in, man. I'm in.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will take your questions for 10 minutes each.
Yeah. We just told ladies, like, we're already 31 minutes into this, and this show has got to be
20 on Trent's question.
Yes. So Trent, let us know how you make out. Give us that subscription up there, and in the comments, let us know who you wind up keeping, so we can talk about it next year. Let's go right into Week 17 before we, because we want to get in a little basketball talk as well. Talk about Friday night and some of the surprises we've seen in the first 3 games. JoJo. Unfortunately, John Morant 3 to 5 weeks. That sucks. I love a John Morant guy, and my hot take last year, and I continue to say, John Morant greater than Zion Williamson. I know people are going to argue with me. I'm telling you right now, to me, John Morant is going to stand the test of time. He's going to last longer in the NBA, and he's going to have a better career. So that's for another day. So let's get into Week 17, and like we do every single week, we talk about our locks, we talk about our gems, our values. I put out 4 every week. These guys put out 4 every week. So we have 12, and I think we always hit on at least 50% of these values. So again, these are values that are under, for quarterbacks, you're talking about maybe $5,500 to $6,000 for running backs, receivers, tight ends, under 4 or 5, under 4, between 3 and 4. A lot of values. I'll tell you what, guys, a quarterback to me this week, I didn't see anything that stuck out to me as far as value. And I know there's a lot of things to take in consideration here. Teams who are playing for what, who's going to rest players, who's not. I'm just going to go right off the top and say one of the locks for me is I look at Ryan Tannehill against Houston, because Houston's just, they can't stop anybody. No matter who plays for Houston, it doesn't matter. Like, Houston gets lit up by anybody and everything. So I know he's $7,000. I think it's a lot of money for Ryan Tannehill, but when you look at the prospects of who's going to play, who's going to sit, for me, for my money, I really think that he is a lock for 20 to 25 DraftKings points, and for $7,000, I don't think you go wrong. The only other guy I looked at was Kirk Cousins against Detroit, who Detroit is done at 6,300. I mean, Minnesota's done as well, but Kirk Cousins, these are the kind of scenarios Kirk likes. No pressure, nothing to play for. He's not going to get hit because he's soft as hell. He's Kirk Cousins. He's probably going to produce. So it's 6,300, maybe. Who knows? Jason, who are you looking at this week?
Well, that's my value, definitely. Kirk Cousins
there you go.
This week. Delvin Cook is out also. I don't know if you saw that or not. His father passed away, so he's out this week. So even more value for Kirk Cousins. I like that a lot. I actually like for value your boy Mitch Trubisky this week.
Ooh, going
against Green Bay. I feel like at 5,600, he doesn't have to do that much to pay off that price. So I like that for value. As far as locks go, Deshaun Watson, I mean, he's like a lock for 25 to 30 a game now. So I love Deshaun Watson. I like Tannehill in that game too. I don't think either team has anything on defense. So, but Deshaun Watson's my lock for sure.
I like that. Yeah, Deshaun Watson's that guy that, we talked a couple weeks ago. Nobody's even talking about as being. I mean, I remember we did this show, it was like week 7 or 8, people were talking about Deshaun Watson. I'm like, you do know he's like the 3rd ranked fantasy quarterback in the league. Like, quietly, I guess because he plays for a bad team and there's no D-Hop, there's no charisma out there this year. So, but he's been absolutely fantastic.
I don't know if you saw that stat about. I don't know if you saw that stat today about Deshaun Watson too. They said with Fuller in the lineup, he's averaging 23.2. Without Fuller in the lineup, 23.1. So basically no difference at all with Fuller out, which is crazy. I thought it would have affected him.
And this is the contract year for Fuller.
Fuller's out.
Yeah, he might be out with D-Hop. That's what that means. They may not be paying him either.
I was shocked he wasn't traded.
Yeah, well, I think they tried to, but they were asking too much.
I think they tried to,
that were asking way too much, and nobody wanted to give up for him, man. I mean, here's the thing. Diggs, you got a first-round pick for Diggs, but at least Diggs showed that he was durable. I mean, Will Fuller, this was the first year before he got popped for the PEDs, and he actually played every game. So, I mean, really hard to spend a first-round pick for a guy like that. Dan, what are you thinking this week?
My locks are Tannehill, Rodgers, and Brady for the more expensive quarterbacks. My value plays, despite the fact I've been harping on his injuries for the past few weeks, I actually like Breeze this week. I like Derek Carr this week. Cousins as well. And I'm a man that doesn't chase points, but Andy Dalton, believe it or not.
Woo! Andy Dalton.
All value picks. And I do recall saying never bench Deshaun Watson for a Jalen Hurts type player.
No, you're right. You did
Just
say
saying.
that. No, that's fine. You did say that. And what did Deshaun get last week?
I have it.
30 points.
30.8, yep.
And what did Jalen get?
Jalen got 24.58.
6 points. And so what I'll say to you, Dan, is
it's
I'll
worth
make
the
those
gamble
6
for
points
6
up
points.
with somebody up. So, wait a minute. You know what? I'd be curious to see. I'm not sure. Do you know what their values were last week?
Well, Jalen was $7,000, wasn't he, Jason?
Yes.
And I'm
he
not
was
sure.
7, yeah. Watson was 76.
Okay.
So there you go. So for 600 points, you got 6 more points. So technically, not that bad, right?
Right.
I mean, but what your point is when you're in standard traditional fantasy, week to week, and that's your team. Yeah, you're right. That's when you say, you know what, I got to go with Deshaun because he's got me there for the entire year and he's been studying.
No, but our topic was strictly on the way they were playing. It wasn't a value situation.
Right.
And I'm not trying to. This is not I told you so because
not at all.
But I'm just saying that I'm glad Watson had a nice game because we were all on the Hurts wagon and
here's what I will say.
He had to prove himself a little longer.
But here's the thing, man. If we're talking about Jalen Hurts having a bad game and still getting 25 points, shit.
True.
On a good day, that's scary. When and you know what though? That just shows you that he is in that Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray conversation because when they do have big games, they still score 25 points. So
they're playmakers.
Yeah, I mean, just because the legs are huge, and you know that you run 50 yards, it's 5 points. I mean, that's a tremendous difference, tremendous. But now, John, Dan just mentioned about 7 quarterbacks here, so I don't know if there's any left for you. But
I get excited. I'm sorry.
It's all good, man. I love it. Who would you think, John? What's your lock or your value this week at quarterback?
My lock and value are pretty much the same almost. And I mean, I could go Lamar. I think it's overpaying. I mean, the 8,000 is fine, but I'm not really crazy about any of the other higher price guys. Like I said before we started, when you got guys resting and you got Cook out, you got Mike Davis is out for the Carolina. Every team, Goff's out. Every team you look at least 50% of the NFL, it's questionable what you're going to get out of them. So for me, I'm going Andy Dalton. I'm in on Andy Dalton. I think 3 of the past 4 weeks, my dirt cheap option, like the lowest I would go, has always panned out every single week. From the Jalen Hurts when I did it, Matt Ryan when he was down in the 5,000s. It's like every week. So I'm just going with Andy Dalton, 5,600. And I'm going to pair him up with a couple of guy or two.
I like it. You're liking that, Andy? A lot of people loving that Carrot Top this week. I might have to play a lineup with Carrot Top, man. I don't think he's going to give you 370-plus yards again, but, I mean, hey, for value, if he can give you 2
get it somewhere else.
Right?
250 and 2 touchdowns.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, I'm all good, and that's quite possible.
I completely agree. It's exactly 250 and 2, and we're set, man. We're set. Now, let's slide over to running backs, and I think there's a lot of value in running backs this week, a lot. I could go on. I could go on a Dan Green list here, but I won't.
I have a short one actually.
What's that?
I have a short one, thank God.
Oh my God! Well, I hope I steal one of your guys, so you know how it feels. Damn it! But no,
yes, I'm
just
sorry.
kidding. My lock this week is Jonathan Taylor. I talked about him in an earlier part of the show. I didn't look at him at all last week, and this week I'm zoned in. Playing up against Jacksonville, Indianapolis does have something to play for. They do have to win. They need to win. They control basically their own destiny. So I'm in on Jonathan Taylor against the 30th ranked run defense against fantasy running backs. And I'm going to give you two. I'm going to do with Dan Green and give you two. I'm not going to give you one. I'm going to give you two values this week.
Give me three. Give me three.
No, only two. Only two. I really like Sony Michel against the Jets at 4,600. I know he didn't score last week, but he's averaged in the past 2 weeks. He's averaged 7 yards per carry, and he's running very well. And I just think this is a week where Sony Michel kind of breaks out against the Jets a little bit, has a really good week. And I like Malcolm Brown. Remember, Henderson not playing. Right? What's that?
You got me. He's off my list now.
Well, hey, Malcolm Brown's a starting running back. $4,300.
Yep.
$4,300. No Jared Goff. No Cam Akers. No Darrell Henderson. Malcolm Brown's going to give you some really good value this week. So, Dan, who I got left for you, buddy?
I'll just go value, and I'll keep it short. Dari Ogunbowale.
Oh, I like that.
He's $4,500 for Jacksonville. He's the only back. So I'm going to put him in a few lineups. Oh, and Darrell Williams at 4,800. I don't think they're going to – I think he's going to be the main back for obvious reasons.
It sure looks it. It sure looks it.
They got to play the game still.
Yes. Yes, you're right. And listen, even if Lev Bell was the guy, guess what? If they're going to rest guys, they're going to rest Bell. They're going to play Williams. So I think it's a really good pick. I like that. Jason, what do you got, buddy? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say on the upper tier, a guy that was last week on the lower tier was Jeff Wilson, and now I have him as a solid pick as a more expensive back this week.
That's a good one. I like that. I mean, he boned me last week because I couldn't trust him, but yeah. I think now
you were right though. You stole two of his red zone scores.
He did, but he ran all over. I mean, it was just ridiculous. Yeah. What do you got, Jason?
My lock of the week is going to be Jonathan Taylor as well. I also like Nick Chubb against Pittsburgh. I don't think Pittsburgh hasn't looked as good against the run lately, so I like Nick Chubb to bounce back. I think the reason for Chubb is not necessarily him as much, but I think Cleveland saw last week what happens when you don't pound the ball with Chubb. They don't look like a very good team at all. So I think they're going to want to get Chubb heavily involved this week, so I like him a lot. For value, I like Gio Bernard, 5,400. He's looked pretty good lately, and I think that's a good play against Baltimore.
Hey, he's been catching a lot of balls, man. Like, I looked, he was like the leading receiver. When we're even talking, even with wide receivers and tight ends up until like the third quarter, like it was ridiculous. Yeah. So yeah, he's doing a lot of good things out there. Taking over for Joe Mixon. So I always liked Gio, man. I did. He'll never be a number one guy, but he fills in really nicely. So John, what do you got, buddy?
I got Jonathan Taylor as well. I had him last week too because I know Pittsburgh's run defense is typically like a sieve. So I was banking on getting in the end zone. So, but I got him again this week. I don't know how I can't not take Myles Gaskin. All the dude does is produce.
Yeah, you're right.
This is a meaningful game for them. You don't know how much Buffalo's going to play because Pittsburgh's basically laying down for the third seed. Buffalo's going to want to win the game, but Miami want that game. Gaskin just performs, win or lose. So it's 6,500. I actually like him more than Chubb. Yes, Pittsburgh's run defense, just what I said with Jonathan Taylor. They are poor, but what scares me is Baker Mayfield's performance this past week. Not that it was atrocious, and yes, you could say the weapons weren't there, but they didn't run the ball. I mean, just like Jason said, they didn't run the ball. They were off their game plan. And if Mayfield's ever in a position where they got to pass, that offense is just in shambles. I just don't like it. but Myles Gaskin and Melvin Gordon's decent at 5,700 going up against Las Vegas. No Phillip Lindsay. But as low as I'll go, Gus Edwards at 4,900 going up against Cincinnati. I mean, he just gets that steady complimentary workload week after week. He's not going to blow it out of the water, but, he also has a nice floor there. And who knows if Baltimore gets up on a lead with against Cincinnati, they may pull Dobbins. They may put in some RG3, and, Edwards might even get 15 plus carries.
You never know, man. This is the week of unknowns. We've talked about it. It is the week of unknowns. We never know what's going to happen. Makes it very, very, very interesting. Tight ends. We always forget about the tight ends, and I always have to. John's always like, "Hey Tony, what about the tight ends?" And I'm remembering them this week. I'm on my game this week, but tight ends. I tell you, we talked about this. A couple weeks ago, I dipped my toes into the Travis Kelce $8,000 pool because John he wrote me in, and I said I'd never do it again, and I still never do it because I found out last week again I could start a stiff and I can get a lot of points for no money, and I'll continue to do that. And this week I'm going to start the Irishman, Mr. Jack Doyle, for $3,000 going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I like Jack Doyle. I like what Phillip Rivers is able to do. He loves the tight end. Trey Burton's kind of fallen out of favor a little bit. Mo Alley Cox has not been able to rekindle the magic that he had in the first 3 or 4 weeks. And Jack Doyle got 6 targets last week, and I like Jack Doyle. I think he's going to be at least good for 1 touchdown. If I can get 1 touchdown, 3 catches for like 40 yards, listen, 13 points for $3,000, I'll take that any day. So I'm just going to stick with the value. So Jason, who you like a tight end?
I completely agree with you about Kelce, by the way. I'm never paying up for tight ends ever again. I'm all about the value, and I like Tyler Conklin. I've been playing him the past few weeks. Not a lot of volume, but, I think he had 7 points last week, 14 and 9 the last 3 weeks. So not a lot of value, but only $3,000. So, yeah, I'm sticking to that range. I like him. I pretty much play him and Irv Smith. I know they're on the same team, but those are pretty much the 2 tight ends that I pick every week. So.
It's all about value with the tight ends, man. 100%. Dan, who you like, buddy?
A guy that's so unpredictable, but he seems to be getting his mojo back is Jimmy Graham at 3,600.
2 touchdowns last week.
Yeah, and you can't go wrong with. Irv Smith has 2 touchdowns, has the highest point total of any tight end this week, and he's still valued at 3,800. Jonnu Smith is still a solid play at 3,800. Gronk, 4,500. He's gotten 7 targets on average the past 2 games, multiple touchdowns. And here's my sleeper again. Would you play Travis Kelce this week?
Hell no.
So Nick Keiser could be a value pick at 3,200.
Ooh, I like that. I thought that
was
the
quarterback.
I thought that was a joke too. I thought that was a joke, but wow.
Is it Chet Henne?
I forget. I forget. It's one of them knuckleheads. It's Chad Henne.
Is it?
Backups love going to tight ends.
Chad Henne. He's still in the league?
Thought he was my age.
Wow. Listen, last night we just had like a Burger King conversation. Like, I would have thought he'd be working at Burger King by now. Chad Henne.
Chad Henne owns a Burger King franchise with the money he made.
Him and Chase Daniel. Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Don't forget, Chad Henne was the quarterback at Michigan when they lost to Appalachian State.
Wow.
Back in the day. When they were like a top 5 team.
Listen, he had some good games for Miami. He did. I'm not going to, but for some reason, though, I always with Chad Henne and Chad Pennington, like those 2 Chads, man, just, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what it is. But Chad Pennington, remember that? For the Jets.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, weak arm Chad.
Yeah, I was just going to say, talk about a noodle arm, man. My God. Unbelievable. So, listen, again, that's football, ladies and gents. That's a wrap this week. Week 17, get your DFS lineups in.
Yeah, I didn't get my tight end picks, and we didn't even do receiver, and we didn't do receivers yet. You were so excited.
We got to do our lineup too.
Yeah.
So excited about tight ends. You skip the receivers completely.
I did. I blew out the tight ends. Right.
I thought that was a master plan, though, Tone.
I'm sorry, John.
All right,
go ahead, man.
My tight end spiel. I love Irv Smith, but no, Mike Gesicki at 4,200 is a no-brainer. I'll pay the extra $600 to get a potential elite tight end, not scrounging for 45 yards.
Ooh, Mike.
What are you trying to say? No.
He doesn't like our value tight ends, man.
No, if they hit, you're rolling the dice. Yes. I mean, there's a whole bunch of those value tight ends. All you got to do is hit on it. Did you pick the right one of 8?
Usually no.
I'm more confident.
It all depends, man. I mean, it's hard. I'd rather spend that money somewhere else. That's my issue.
I would rather drop from a $6,000 receiver to a $5,000 receiver and go to Gesicki over Tyler Conklin or whoever else. That's just me. Because Gesicki could legit put up 6 for 80 and a touchdown is within full reason. What are you going to get? 2-3 catches and a touchdown? I don't know. I feel like there's always values at receiver.
John's just hating on our logic. That's all. That's all right. That's all right.
I don't hate on anyone's logic. I just have different logic.
Yeah.
That's all.
I like that. Well, you know what, John? So I don't forget. Why don't we just start with you for receivers?
Yeah.
How's that?
There you go.
Because I didn't even fill out my receiver slots yet. All I had was.
Look at this. Look, you're behind the game here.
You know why? Because I threw in that basketball lineup. I went on to do my football lineups, and I had the contest invite, and I couldn't say no, so I had to do that first.
So
I'm pairing Andy Dalton up. I got Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup in here. I'm probably going to yank Cooper. I'm looking at my salary. I probably got I'm probably going to yank Cooper. In terms of value, I'll be with you in 1 second. I don't like Chark.
I'll be with you in 1 second. What's your problem, man?
You know what? I have no problem. I have a solution. Michael Pittman.
Yeah, you like Michael Pittman, huh?
I'm going with it. 4,100.
Okay.
I'm not loving it. I'm going with it.
You're going with it. You're not loving it, but you're going with it. I like Michael Pittman. I mean, listen, he's decent. He is. I don't have a problem. They're all everybody's questionable. Everybody. You know what I mean? Everybody's questionable. Dan, help John out, would you? He's a mess right now.
I certainly will. I don't chase points, but I do chase value. So Zach Pascal at 4,200 seems to have a rapport going with the Rivers now. He's averaged 6 targets the past 2 games and with 3 TDs.
Yes,
not chasing points, chasing value. Judy's averaged 10 targets the past 2 games, $4,200.
He also had 5 drops last game.
Well, I'm talking about targets. Yeah, he's got issues.
I love it.
Now there's no Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel this week for San Francisco, so you can get value at 4,300 with Bourne and terrific value at 3,100 with James.
Yep.
And again, look at Hardman, Robinson, or Pringle for KC because I don't think any of the studs are going to be playing.
I think you're right.
And if Cole Beasley's injured, who are we going to put in there, Tone?
Gabriel Davis.
Correct, Amundo.
My man.
I love Gabriel Davis. He's hit me like 4 props and parlays this year. Like I love Gabriel Davis. I do. He just always wins me something. So I'm in with Gab 100%.
I'll just 100%. Give you my value, guys. The studs are obvious.
Yeah, that's fine. Jason, what do you got, buddy?
Well, after those 15 value guys, I don't know who else is left. Let me look. I'm kidding. I love the Minnesota wide receivers, both of them, Thielen and Jefferson this week, going against the terrible Lions. No Delvin Cook, so I like both of them. For value, I like Darnell Mooney. I play him every week. He's not anything special, but I feel like they're going to have to score against Green Bay, and they need to win to make the playoffs. So I like him to get involved. 4,100. That's going to be my value. And then I also like Darius Slayton again this week. He didn't do much last week as one of my sleepers. I was kind of disappointed, but he had 8 targets still. So anybody that has 8 targets, he's definitely the favorite target in that offense, and I like him at 4,100 as well. So those are my 2 values.
I like it. I'm going to go right with Dan and what you guys. When I'm not even going to mention locks or studs. And I got two guys, 2 value guys. I got Scotty Miller. 3,600 against Atlanta. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in that game. Brady's kind of been on the mark, and Scotty Miller just seems to find his way, whether it be in the middle of the field or in the red zone, for at least one score. And I like Braxton Berrios this week. They used him a lot last week. They're getting him more involved. And against New England, who absolutely stinks, I actually think the Jets can win this game, and they may. I mean, Adam Gase has his team playing well the last couple of weeks, and they seem to be rejuvenated. So it's crazy, isn't it? I mean, when you think about it, but I like
my
Braxton.
question for you about the Jets, is it worth it? I mean, they look good. They're rolling a little bit, but is it worth it?
It's as a Jets fan, you're asking Jets. I'm not a Jets fan, but I would be upset if I was a Jets fan.
Me too. But it's hard to tell players that professionals, that's but I completely agree. If I'm a Jets fan, I'm like, no, just throw Flacco out there. Like what you know what I mean? Like whatever you got to do, like let's lose this game. But listen,
we don't value defense, but they're a hell of a pick for defense this week too, because the Patriots reek and the Jets are a $2,300 defense, I believe.
And Dan, when we're always going back and forth with our lineups, it's always like, oh, the Jets are last. we throw the Jets in there, but I
like the Jets last week because of the whole COVID thing too.
Yeah, no, you're right. So listen, very, very, very interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think Barrios scores this week. I do. I like that pick. So John, are you? I don't know if you still. You know what? I don't know if you're still in basketball or football or what we're doing here. But are you ready to talk lineup or no?
For what? Yes, I'm ready for whatever.
Okay, well, you weren't ready when I just went to you last time.
Well, I'm ready. Now I got Richie James in my lineup, and I got money for Devontae Adams, so he's in there.
All right, let's get your line. And please listen. This is what we had to do, and I dropped the ball too, because I just started doing a basketball. So what we need to do is we need to start posting our lineups on Twitter, so everybody that follows us can see who we're starting. And then listen, we can flex when we're good, and everybody can throw egg on us when we suck. So it'll be fun. So John, who do you got, buddy?
We're going Andy Dalton, Jonathan Taylor. I got Gaskin. Mainly all the guys that we talked about. Devontae Adams. I went Richie James. Gallup. I yanked Cooper from the lineup. I didn't like him. He was just a placeholder. Gesicki. I'm going Jeff Wilson in the flex. He was a little more expensive than I really wanted to pay up, but I was able to save some money, so plugging him in. And I don't pair up Dalton and Gallup with the Cowboys defense at 2,900. They've had double-digit points 3 straight weeks.
I like it.
Plug and play.
Plug and play. I like it. Again, if you're listening, John, I'm going to probably have to teach John how to take a snippet of his lineup and post it on Twitter. But that's okay. It's all about learning. So
I know how to snip it.
What show are we talking about? Is this a medical show or is it a football show?
Right.
What do you got, Jason?
Starting off with my man Deshaun Watson this week. Like we said, pretty much he puts up 25 to 30 every single week, so I love him. My running backs are going to be Chubb and Gaskin. You kind of stole my thunder a little bit with my Braxton Berrios call. So I'm playing him, Cooks, and Higgins as my wide receivers. John's favorite, Ty Conklin, is going to be the tight end. David Montgomery at the flex, and the Jets defense.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I think we're going to have a lot of similarities. I do. Dan, what do you got, buddy?
The lineup that jumps out at me that I put together, one of my 50. I have.
And he's
Kirk Cousins.
Just so everybody knows real fast, he's not lying, by the way.
He's not kidding,
exaggerating.
No.
Hence the PayPal reference. Don't tell my wife. Thank you. Kirk Cousins is my quarterback. I have Taylor and Wilson at running back. Thielen, Aguilar, Curtis Samuel at wide receiver. Irv Smith Jr. at tight end. My flex is George Kittle, and my defense is the Jets.
Ooh, we got a little George Kittle in there. I like it.
I had to go a little double stack.
I like that. So
can you repeat your receivers?
I was going to ask you guys that. Go ahead.
Thielen, Aguilar, Curtis Samuel.
So did anybody, Jason? Did you try out the theory last week on any of your lineups?
I did. It's not work very well.
It worked for me.
Did it work for you, Dan?
That's good. That's
good. I had one lineup. Yeah, I mean, it depends. It depends on it's luck, obviously. But I tried it. It was one of my better weeks, believe it or not.
Really? Yeah. Which one was it? You remember? What 3 guys?
You know what? Go to your lineup, and I'll try to pull it up from last week.
So I did a little something different in my lineup, like I always like to do. I went with about 3 or 4 guys that are really low value guys that I'm hoping that produce to give me some higher number guys. So I went with Tannehill as my quarterback. I really like that for 7,000. I just think Houston is so bad right now. With all the games being played in the different matchups, I think he's a safe guy for 7,000. I took Jonathan Taylor as my 1 running back, and number 2 running back Malcolm Brown. I talked about 4,300. He's the star. He's going to get the volume. Devontae Adams. I think every lineup I ever have done in the past 4 weeks has to revolve around Devontae Adams. He is an absolute stud, and yes, I'm chasing points at 9,200, but he is going to give you every ounce that you pay for. Zach Pascal, I like Dan said the last 2 weeks, he seems to be building a rapport, and that gives me my Jonathan Taylor, Zach Pascal kind of stack. I like Kendrick Bourne. He was another guy. Thought about that, just like Dan said, no Samuel, right? And no Ayuk. So he's a guy that was getting 6 to 7 points per week, and now he should double that. Tight end Chris Herndon from the Jets, last 2 weeks, 8 targets in 2 weeks, and has caught at least 1 touchdown. $2,800 against a really bad New England team. And then I flexed enough money for Calvin Ridley, who for 8,500, he again against Tampa Bay, their defense not sold. I think there's going to be some points scored in that game, and Ridley is as solid as they come. And the New York Jets as my defense for 2,300. So I never thought that I would have a lineup that had 2 plays from the Jets, but it is week 17. What the hell? Let's go for it and see what happens. I don't think anybody. So did you find it, Dan?
I did. Here's my best lineup, but it wasn't complete. I had Deshaun Watson, McKissick, David Johnson, Curtis Samuel, Deontay Johnson, Crowder, Logan Thomas went with McKissick at tight end, and I had Robert Woods and the Broncos defense. That was a 186-point week.
Nice.
Or lineup.
Yeah, Crowder had a good week.
Yeah, he did. He threw a touchdown too.
Yeah, he had a really good week. I mean, like I said, they're starting to be a little inventive on offense finally for the Jets. So maybe it's some sign of things to come. Who knows, man?
Yeah.
But the funny thing with McKissick, I had to do everything last second because I didn't know. I was doing a show with Jason. I didn't know Pollard was going to get benched. I didn't know Zeke was coming back. So I quickly got Pollard out of all my lineups and put McKissick in, not knowing that Gibson was back too. So I got lucky with McKissick, but it was crazy,
but you know what?
flipping and flopping.
He's been pretty steady though, man. He's been pretty steady. I mean, McKissick is, he's not a lead back, but he's really steady, man. He catches like 7 balls a week. You know what I mean? And he's a rather large guy. He's not small, so he can run too, which is pretty good. So John, before I move on to basketball for the last 15 minutes, did I miss anything? I want to make sure.
I think you're good, man.
I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything on football. So everybody, please, good luck. Week 17, if you are playing for the Super Bowl, I apologize that you're in that kind of league. Start a protest. Get that vote going for next year. Okay? But if you are, good luck. Let us know how you make out, as always. And, we'll be back on some playoff fantasy. Actually, I want to know, I don't know if there's any DraftKings does a playoff fantasy. Like, if you can create a a playoff fantasy league like we do with everything else. I have to look into that because I would definitely do that too. I don't want to keep track of anything manually, but I would love to do one online and just like let whoever join because they're the nice ones. You put your lineup in and set it and forget it. It is what it is for the whole playoffs. And it'll give us another topic to talk about as well. So if you guys know of any, let me know. I'll look around too. I'm just not sure if a lot of leagues do that or not, but because the ones I was in back in the day, it was manual. The guys do it manually. I'm sorry, I love you guys, but just screw that. I don't have enough time to be doing manual scores.
No, hell no.
100%. But let's get into some basketball. We got about 10, 15 minutes left of the show. And again, we talked last week. We're going to start transitioning to more of a basketball-centric show because this is all around fantasy. And again, NFL is going to kind of take a backseat a little bit because it's going to be playoff time. And we're talking about NBA. We're only 3-4 games in, but all we want to do is we want to at least talk about some guys that maybe, have been a surprise. Some guys, you talk about the Ja Morant injury. It sucks. 3 to 5 weeks. I hate it. I love watching John. I can't watch it for 5 weeks. It'll probably be a little longer. Just terrible. Spencer Dinwiddie, partially torn ACL. That sucks. Another guy that was going to be productive. Step in Karis LeVert. And again, how about TLC getting the start? What's going on with that? The old Philadelphia 76er. Dan, can you say the name? Can you get the full name?
Timothy Luwalu-Cabarrot.
I love it. I just call him TLC for short because I will butcher that every single time. We can talk about guys like Kyle Anderson really coming to the show. So a lot of interesting things. One thing I will say, get your guys' opinion on the difference because I know you guys are more than 4 for 4, kind of like 6 for 6 when it comes to fantasy. But basketball, I have to say, over the I just actually started playing a couple years ago. I have to be honest. I really just started to get into it. Never did the DraftKings thing until last year. But it's really got me into the game even more, and it's actually helped me learn part of the game. But I will say this. You have to be more on your game, in my opinion, for basketball than baseball or football. Out of those three, I'm not sure about hockey, only because there's so many evolving parts, whether it be the style of defense they're going to play. Guys are going back to back. Are they going to rest? How many minutes they're going to play? So many things to take in perspective. So, let's talk about some guys. Jason, couple guys. I know we already talked about Kyle Anderson. Anybody else has caught your eye that maybe we weren't looking at preseason that's really started to ring off the charts for you?
Yeah, for sure. First off, just kind of going off your point that you just said about basketball, you're 100% right. You have to pay attention. If you play basketball, you got to pay attention the entire night until the last game locks because you're one guy. I mean, obviously, Ja Morant's out for a while, but say he was just out for one game. He just had an ankle tweak. That affects 4 people, basically, in his lineup.
Yes.
So you have to watch it all the way. And you know how many times I've been screwed by, you don't pay attention to the 9:30 starts, and then so-and-so in your lineup ends up not playing, and you're screwed. You get a 0 for that spot, and you're basically not going to cash anything. So I think that's a great point. Just going along with who's been a surprise, for me, it's kind of sad because I wanted the Pistons to re-sign him, but Christian Wood, he has been really, really good. I mean, he looks legit. He looks like an all-star. So he's definitely been my surprise of the year so far, not just from a fantasy perspective, but the dude looks like he could really play. So I like him a lot.
You know what's crazy about that is, and again, I was on the Christian Wood train last year as well, and I said if he gets the more opportunity to play like starter minutes, he's going to be a stud. And not only is he playing so well, but now you look at that Houston team, and everybody thought, you know what, Russ is gone, Harden's out of shit. I'll tell you what, the pick and rolls have been happening between Harden and Wood, and John Wall hasn't even entered into the building yet. Like, that's going to be a prolific scoring team. So, great point. I love
He's perfect.
Christian Wood.
I feel like Christian Wood is perfect for that team, too, because like you said, the pick and roll, but he's not a guy that's going to come in and take 25 shots in a game or 20 shots in a game. He needs, 10 shots to get involved. He's kind of a garbage kind of guy, and I think he's a great fit for that team. You can go small with him, and he can be your one big, and that makes your team really tough to defend.
And the funny thing is, you hit it right on the head because you talk about Houston, who's always played small ball, and you think when they had Clint Capella, he wasn't an offensive powerhouse.
No.
I mean, you have a guy. I mean, Christian Wood is a more athletic and more offensively gifted Clint Capella.
Yep.
So they've actually upgraded that position, which is tremendous. It really is. So yeah, I like Christian Wood a lot. Dan, anybody that wasn't on your radar, or I'm sure you got a list, so hit us with it.
Well,
it's going to be an inside joke all the time, man. You know that.
Yeah. Well, it shows that I come prepared, right?
I love it. I love it.
You mentioned Kyle Anderson. He's 13 points above his scoring average, so he's been a stud this year. Terrence Ross has been a different player. You know, he's I think 8 points above his best, or 8 points above his best season. My favorite of the year so far has been Terry Rozier. 27 points a game, 18 points above his career average. Bet you Boston wishes they had him back.
You know, that team,
and a guy that hasn't,
that team, Charlotte, is actually really fun to watch. They're not a great team, but they do a really good. I feel like they're entertaining to watch. They have a lot of young athletic pieces, and they're not great, but they're at least fun to watch.
You're right.
And I'll say two quick things and I'll give my time up to someone else. Is Sabonis, even though he's not a surprise, he's been an absolute beast so far this year. He's really stepped up to the next level. And I mentioned this pre-show. In my research, the Magic have every player on their roster except for Gary Clark averaging 16 minutes or more. That's astounding in my opinion, and that's probably why they're 4-0. A very balanced ball club.
Yeah, that's. I'll tell you what. You did talk about it off air, and one of the guys we also talked about was Markelle Fultz. I mean, come on, like, are you kidding me? Like, what happened, man? Like, so it is crazy. It's a nightmare for us in Philadelphia. I'll tell you that. It is a nightmare. It is a nightmare. So, John, what are you thinking, buddy? Who's on your list?
Darius Garland.
Yes.
I mean, he's been putting up stats. Okay. He's up there, I mean, stat-wise with the big boys. I mean, you don't know how long he's going to be able to maintain it, but, that's been a nice surprise this year. And the guy that is always, to me, just underrated is Larry Nance Jr. All right? I just feel like he's just all around. He gets the job done. Look, he might not be spectacular all the time, but, I just feel like he's one of the more underrated players. I mean, you're talking both Cleveland guys. I mean, that's Cleveland, you know what I mean? But somebody got to do something. So those are my two.
I like Garland. I do. And I know, like you said, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, he's been in my lineup. I kind of read about him in the offseason a little bit, because I really like Colin Sexton. I really like him a lot. Yeah, and I was reading about Cleveland. And Larry Nance, I mean, he's an athletic big who, listen, he's not going to score 30 points a game, but I mean, for DraftKings purposes, he's a really good value every single night. He's always hanging around there, man. He's a good plug-and-play guy. So, no, I completely agree, 100%. And again, like me and Jason were saying, there's so many things to take into consideration. And especially, the thing about basketball is it changes. It's almost like a 3-part season. In the beginning, right? You're going to have guys don't play back-to-backs. They're going to play little minutes. In the middle, you're going to have guys that kind of, develop different roles, because they always talk about a 25 to 30 game span as being a marker for, are they gelling, right? And then towards the end, you're going to have guys that didn't play a lot in the beginning. They're going to play more minutes in the end because it's playoff push time, right? So there's so many things. Fantasy basketball is really, really tough, but it's really fun. It is. It's really, really fun. I was just looking at my team that I drafted tonight. Dante DiVincenzo for me was my value tonight. He already went in the second quarter. He's already over his props for points and assists. So again, I don't know. You got to find these gems, man. Look at those numbers. Look at under that $5,000 mark. Look at consistency. Look at the last 3 games that they played. Look at their minutes. Look at their field goal percentage, CD injuries. There's tons of things. We could talk for hours about it, which is absolutely, absolutely fun. And again, if you're listening and you want to get in this league, man, hit us up. We still got a day left. It's called the DFS Crossover League because we're crossing over from football to basketball for the heat ratio for the Fantasy Firebox. So we would love to have you in. Now, let's go on the opposite side. I know it's only been 3 games, before we get out of here. And I know there's guys that, were really, really up high that we were expecting a ton of production from. And I know it's only 3 games, but there's certain things that you can see. We hope this pattern doesn't formulate. So, Jason, I'll start with you once again. Give me somebody who maybe was really high on your charts who you're starting to get concerned about already.
I wouldn't say necessarily he was too high on my charts, but I always seem to play him in DraftKings. Is LaMarcus Aldridge. He just looks god awful for the Spurs. I mean, he has been terrible so far this year. He looks like he really fell. That team in general is kind of a mess right now, but he doesn't even look like a factor at all. And he's definitely not somebody that I'm going to play in DraftKings. So that's probably my biggest shocker for how bad he's gotten so fast.
No, I agree. And he was a guy that's always played a lot of minutes. And again, in Philadelphia, this is what we worry about with Joel Embiid. It's a guy who relies on his legs and his knees, and he's a very powerful guy. When them guys come down and with authority, it kills their legs and knees, man. So I just think he's getting old. I do. I just think he's getting old, and they use him a lot out there. And you're right. The Spurs, they're kind of on a downturn. They are. They really are. So, Dan, you got anybody that's kind of surprised you that really hasn't produced yet?
Well, yeah. In one of our earlier shows, I mentioned someone that I thought would have an uptick, and I think most of you were excited about my selection. He's been awful. It's Kelly Oubre. And
terrible.
I know. He's like a stock I'm watching, and it's going down, because I liked him preseason. And I was also wrong with Andre Drummond. I don't like his game, but he's a fantasy beast. And you nailed it when you said you got to look at the circumstance around why someone's going to be a beast. No Kevin Love, no Joel Embiid to go up against. So he's had some great scenarios to play and get some great numbers. So I'll admit when I was wrong, and I was wrong with Drummond being overvalued, and I was wrong with Kelly Oubre for being a stock rising player.
No, listen, I liked it, because listen, where he's playing, the role that he's in, you would think that whole team is kind of off right now. So I don't, I don't think that's.
It could change, right?
Yeah, I don't think that's stock. I mean, we are like what you said, 3 games in, but at the end of the day, though. You got to start. You can't go 0 for 17. You got to be a little better than that, man.
Just keep jacking them. Just keep jacking them.
Exactly. So what do you got, John? You got somebody?
I ain't got nobody. It's too early in the season. Basketball is my third sport. Okay.
I know.
I dabble. I actually had a draft the other night, a season-long draft that I did. I got my lineup in. Right now, I'm still ahead of who is it? Fire Dragon.
Fire Cobra.
Cobra Fire or something
Fire
like that.
Cobra. Yeah. Fire Cobra 03. We're neck and neck.
How many people played in that?
I don't know. I think it might just be me and him.
I think it was.
I don't know.
You two are.
I don't know, but
$6.
yeah, I got Dinwiddie yacht hurt me. I didn't even hear that. What?
I said you're playing for like $6.
But, not even. It was $1. I think it was $1 entry.
Was it?
Bucket. I'm in line for a $1.80.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have change in my account.
That's pretty sad. For me, one of the guys who I was so high on it, and again, John, you're right. I know it's only 3 games, but it's kind of concerning only because the one thing that was unique about this year was, we talked about, are we going to just have bubble players, and are those bubble players going to be able to come out of that bubble atmosphere and parlay that onto the actual court? And Jamal Murray has not looked like the same guy we've seen in the bubble. And I know it's only 3 games, but what concerns me is he's only shooting 39%. In the bubble, he was shooting 45%. He's averaging 4 points less per game. Doesn't look like the same player. Now, Again, it's been a shorter off season. There was a lot of things going on. There's a lot of players that are in this kind of mode, but I expect better things from him. I just, it concerns me because he was a bubble guy. There's certain players that play, listen, Dame is Dame, right? Jamal Murray was a bubble guy. So I just hope that because listen, if Jamal Murray doesn't run the ship, in Denver, they're in trouble. Jokic looks like Jokic came out slow in the bubble, and he came out on fire right now, right? It's completely different, right? Another guy I like a lot that I think that a lot of people were sleeping is Gary Trent Jr. I really liked Gary Trent last year for like what he was able to do, and I think he's even taken it up a notch this year. It makes Portland really scary. Portland's got a really good team. They do. I think they're too deeper. I love Covington for their team. I think he fills a great role. Listen, Dame and McCollum. I mean, come on, man. And it's just Nurkic in the middle now. He's healthy. That's a really good team out there in Portland.
That Lakers game was awesome to watch, wasn't it?
Yeah,
yes,
definitely.
That's why I love and that's why I love the West Coast games, because I rarely, honestly, I don't bet a lot on the early games because, we do a lot of our work earlier. Like right now I'm saying, all right, 5 minutes, show's over. I'm going to go. The game start at 9:30, 10 o'clock. I'll be able to put my feet up, put a couple lineups in, and just watch them. So I love the West Coast games. One of my favorite part of the NBA, 100%. But listen, I talked about keeping the show under an hour and a half. We're an hour and 20, so it's perfect. I think it went well, rolled smooth. For everybody listening, Fancy Firebox, check us out, Heat Ratio Sports. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube page. Big things coming up. I can tell you that. I have about 3 different people coming on board, and I've said we're a big team here. And we're going to start having shows every single day, not from us in particular, but my goal for the network for our programming is to have a show every day of the week. Different personalities, not just going to be John and me, Jason, Dan. We're all different people talking different things. I got Jamar who's going to talk college. We got Dan doing hockey. I got me, Andre, and Al doing basketball. There's going to be something different for everybody. So again, don't forget about the small guy, man. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy, and we will catch you next week.